guys, Marty Schwartz here with Marty Music again, and I'm hanging out with an amazing musician. We're lucky to have him here today. Chris Eldridge, also known as Critter. Chris Critter Eldridge.
That's me.
You got to have a name like that in a bluegrass band. You're from the Punch Brothers, which are just such an amazing group. Bluegrass, but so much more than that. And then, of course, you have a duo with Julian Lodge, right? And then you have your own Grammy-nominated group that's new, that's called
Mighty Poplar.
Mighty Poplar.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your Grammy-winning ways.
Oh, come on.
To come on.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah,
man.
man.
Glad to meet you finally.
Yeah. Can you tell me the story on this beautiful guitar, what it is, and how'd you get it, the story of it?
This is a really special guitar. This is a 1937 Martin D28, and this is actually the first one Martin made that year. This is the first 37.
And D28, that's the pretty much the bluegrass guitar.
Yeah,
that's what Tony Rice played.
That
right?
Tony played a D28. Yeah, I mean, D18s are great too. The difference is, having a rosewood back inside versus mahogany. This is rosewood, and the rosewood guitars tend to just have a little more of a certain kind of richness. This guitar kind of came to me. I got in the vintage Martin game when I was much younger. I didn't have any other responsibilities, and so I started saving. So I bought an old refinished D28 from 1939, and when they're refinished, they're a lot cheaper. And then I was kind of just in the game. I kind of had a chip in the game, and just was very lucky that over time I was able to come into this really special instrument. My friend Bob Minner, who's a great guitar player, he'd met this guitar, 25 years ago, and it's like one of these special ones. He'd been, just kept his eye on it. When it was time for it to kind of move on to its next person, he was able to kind of facilitate me having a shot at it. Feels to me like my life or instrument. I'm done.
How long have you had it?
About 2 years. An interesting thing about acoustic guitar is, if you think about how these things are built, it's different than an electric guitar. You can really change the timbre by how you kind of attack the string. It's so direct and primal on an acoustic because you've got this really thin soundboard, right? It's like a diaphragm. If you activate the string down in towards the top a little bit more versus like activating across the side, like, how much more rich? It's like a thin thing I'm playing across. If I activate in, all of a sudden there's like this rich, full low end. You only have to do it a tiny bit to get that advantage. So sometimes, playing bluegrass, you might play sweeps, you might play consecutive downstrokes in a row to kind of to play rest strokes. That's kind of when you need to get the guitar a little louder. But often if you're just playing like streams of 16th notes, which is what happens in flat picking, you think about like Doc Watson or Tony Rice or Norman Blake or all these like heroes Clarence White, who kind of pioneered the form. In bluegrass, the vast majority of the time as a guitar player, you're playing rhythm guitar. Like you're going to be taking solos, 2% of the time. The rest of the time, you got to be swatting good rhythm. And bluegrass is also interesting because there's no drummer, mostly. I mean, rarely people have drummers.
Like mandolin is a big part of the percussion and guitar.
Well, yeah, everything.
Or air of them, yeah.
Bass tends to play on beats 1 and 3. If you're going like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Mandolin is hitting the off beats like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. It sounds like reggae if you actually play this on guitar, but
slow,
like 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
But so right there, you just got beats 1, 2, 3, and 4 covered, which is what a drummer often would be covering those beats, on 1 and 3 with the kick. If you're just talking about the most basic rhythm and hitting the snare on 2 and 4. Banjo is subdividing, threes. You got 3 finger picks, so a lot of times you're kind of playing rolls in threes, even if you're playing music that you would count in 4, 2, 3, 4, da 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 against that. So that kind of makes a cool subdivision. Fiddle, usually just playing long notes, but they can chop too. So guitar can kind of subdivide. It can play real simple. It can kind of get in and do all kinds of things, but you add it all up, and like every instrument, the whole string band is sort of like a drum set. So everybody has to have killer timing in bluegrass. That's one of the hallmarks of the music.
And so do you find that the best bluegrass bands tend to stay in a very tight BPM, naturally?
They can, although with a lot of music, it's like being perfect rhythmically isn't always what the music wants. A lot of times you listen to like Police tracks, like The Police and Stuart Copeland, like you just see the chorus like just picks up. And I think any good music should be able to breathe. But the trick is like, can you breathe together? Can you keep that kind of interlocked, tense, like, roiling rhythm together? Bluegrass musicians will kind of wind up getting into kind of like an up-down rhythm. There's a whole idea of like pick stroke theory, where if you were doing dotted eights, it would be like down, up. You'd play like a down, ghost and up, ghost another down, and then play another upstroke. Yeah, like there's a bluegrass tune, Red Hair Boy, that starts with this gesture, da-ga-ga-da. You'd play it down, down, up, and then up, down, which a lot of people, when they're starting out, will just kind of want to start a new phrase after any rest on another downstroke. But you can kind of take advantage of the fact that the body kind of wants to stay in this constant motion. Like once you start this kind of up-down motion, ba-ga-ga-ga-da-da-da-da, it's like it'll just kind of go. And it's like it's harder to actually stop it and like go, but start another downstroke without just kind of, just keep this movement happening. The main G chord that most people play, certainly in the modern era, is like a thirdless G.
Yes. Which they got from AC/DC.
Yeah, they got from AC/DC. It just has a drive. It's got a certain driving. So if you listen to the quality of, or even if we actually play this B down low,
right. Yeah,
it's a little gooier sounding. It's like kind of warm and gooey, but it doesn't.
When it's just the root and fifth, it's tight.
It's tight. Versus, it just punches.
Yeah.
So, like for that, I'm kind of using the middle finger on the 6th string, and the underside, this is a crucial point, the underside of the middle finger is muting the 5th string. So if I played this one string at a time, you get that, G right there. If I play the 5th string, that's fully being muted by the underside of my middle finger. But then, got an open 4th string, a D, open G. And then at the 3rd fret of the 1st and 2nd string, it's got a D and a G. But it's really important if you do that you're not letting that A ring.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of cool sounding, but exactly. This is a weird thing I do. Most bluegrass guitar players don't do, but you can also play, a C chord with 5th like that.
That's kind of AC/DC too.
It is, that was like a trick I learned from Eric Johnson. He'll play. Power chords, instead of doing it like that, he'll do it like this. You just get kind of a brighter, clearer sound. On the F chord, a lot of times you can, use your thumb to get the low note here, but you can use your middle finger to kind of pull off from this third, this A to the G, or hammer on, or you can just let it be that kind of sussy F sound. But it's a nice voicing.
Oh, you're going like that.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't quite have the AC/DC thing. It's like introspective AC/DC.
I mean, you've got these classic.
Yeah.
I mean, which it's my fake
Totally.
thing. But do you have one that you can kind of, or just any kind of thing, a Tony Rice thing, or a.
That's a fun Tony Rice.
Yeah, let's check it out.
It's kind of like a reverse bend, and it's real. It's like the stinger, you know.
Yeah.
He's playing a bluegrass song. That's like a string of Tony Rice licks put together. Bunch of Tony Rice isms. I knew Tony. He was kind of my mentor.
Love it.
And I'm convinced that he spent most of his waking hours in front of his record player listening to his jazz heroes. Just listen to anything from Cecil Taylor to George Benson to, I mean,
there's definitely a George Benson thing there.
There's a smoothness that Tony could kind of get at too, but nasty. He could be smooth and nasty, which I kind of think of like George Benson is like, he's the guy in jazz guitar who represents both smooth and nasty.
Yeah, I like that.
And so like the genre concern then kind of just becomes superficial and aesthetic. I mean, the great musicians in any genre are just playing music, and it's
Absolutely.
Like you kind of have you grow up in the South, you have to speak with a Southern accent, or
Right.
or whatever. It's like.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up kind of near DC.
Okay,
Yeah.
and your dad is a bluegrass musician.
He is, yeah. He and my mom are both bluegrass. My dad played in a band called the Seldom Scene, which were they're still playing. He doesn't play anymore, but they were kind of one of the pretty influential bands of like
banjo.
the 1970s. Yeah, and he played banjo. My mom played banjo. So that's how they met. And here I am.
Banjo lovers.
Banjo. It's a terrifying thing, really.
Chris Critter Eldridge from Punch Brothers. Do you remember the first thing you ever learned on guitar?
First one I tried to work on was, and I'll try and imitate it the way I would have done it then.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, that was number one.
And that was to be opposite of.
Yeah, and then but then I think actually the first thing that felt more like we have two strings now was.
Oh, Anna-Gata Davida?
Oh, yeah.
That's like the bizarro.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. Then that one was up there too.
Yeah.
That was one of the early ones.
I know you're probably bored of getting all your Grammy nominations all the time, but your actual new group has a new Grammy nomination.
Yeah.
Tell me about your new group.
The new band, Mighty Poplar. I've got this new bluegrass band. We play actual bluegrass. We didn't even have a band name this time last year, but we just got nominated for a Grammy. This band actually plays bluegrass, and it's really fun because that's ultimately what I did grow up with, even though I wasn't wanting to do that when I was a kid because that's what mom and dad did.
Yeah.
It's sunk its claws into me over time, and so to actually get to play that music is a real treat.
Well, congratulations, man.
Thanks.
So once again, I want to thank Chris Critter Eldridge from Punch Brothers and so much more. We've got links below for you to make sure you follow him and see all the amazing music he's got going on. Good luck out there, man. So nice hanging with you.
Marty, pleasure.
Yeah, hope we hang again.
I hope so.